Welcome to another segment of the BYU Management Society's Learn from Professionals initiative. Our goal is to provide guidance to young adults that are either exploring various careers or are ready to jumpstart a career. Today, we have an opportunity to learn from a seasoned professional in the investment banking, mergers and acquisitions, and private finance business, Mr. Richard Millett. Richard, thank you for your willingness to share your expert advice with our viewers.
My pleasure, Scott. Thanks for asking me.
So, Mr. Millett joined W.G. Nielsen and Company in 2010 and has more than 35 years of experience in mergers and acquisitions and private and public company financing. Prior to joining the firm, Mr. Millett was the Chief Financial Officer of Office Source, where he acquired 5 regional companies to form a national office furniture wholesale company with $125 million in revenues. Before Office Source, he served as the Vice President of Acquisitions and Corporate Development of Corporate Express, where he was responsible for 185 acquisitions completed in 6 years. So very busy. This was both in the public and private, including 73 international acquisitions. He also practiced law at Davis, Graham, and Stubbs, one of Denver's largest and oldest law firms, where he focused on mergers and acquisitions, corporate securities and finance, and general corporate law. Mr. Millett received his law degree from J. Reuben Clark Law School, Brigham Young University, a bachelor's degree in accounting from Brigham Young University. He's also a former certified public accountant. So Richard and his wife, Julie, have 6 children and 4 grandchildren. He enjoys his varied callings in the church, anywhere from the assistant deacon's quorum advisor to a stake president. And he and Julie recently returned from serving as a mission president in the Paraguay Asunción North Mission.
I'll correct it. Asunción.
Asunción. Sorry. All right. So, Richard, you have a law degree and are also a certified public accountant. What made you decide to pursue a career in investment banking?
Scott, I'd love to be able to say that before college I had this design that this is exactly where I wanted to be. But as I look at my career kind of takes a path like this, and kind of one different thing led to another, till I got to a point where I had the luxury of saying, what is it I really want to be when I grow up? And a voice in the back of my head said, I really love what investment bankers do. I love sitting across the table and negotiating deals. And that's what I had been doing for a long time. And so I reached out to this investment banking firm. But basically, it's a step-by-step approach from different jobs and different opportunities that I had that got me to this point.
So you have a very successful career. What do you attribute your success to?
I would say, one, I had a good foundation on my educational side. As you heard from my biography, I had some good building blocks there, both in finance and in law, which helped me. Law is not required to be successful in investment banking. I had some good building blocks. In the early years of my career, there's just a lot of hard work and a lot of late hours, and then there's kind of some dues you have to pay to get it's kind of like the boot camp for business. And yeah, I think some people shy away from those long hours, but I every day I draw back from those days of the long hard work when I was a young professional.
So, Richard, can you tell us what's the best career advice that someone's offered you?
I've had some good mentors over the years. one advice that someone gave me at the very beginning when I was looking at what career to select was really to aim high. And just a brief story is when on my mission in Argentina, I decided I wanted to go into a particular career. And my dad said, you know, son, you need to go talk to Doug Morrison. He was a member of our ward who was a very successful attorney and CPA. He goes, you got to go talk to him and get some advice from him. So I went over to Doug's house and I was admiring his nice, beautiful home, his beautiful family, and the beautiful career. And he kind of very gently and maybe not so gently told me, you need to think higher and farther than what you're thinking. The career you're thinking you're about is something that is okay, but why don't you think about going to law school? Why don't you think about getting your CPA license? And that piece of advice he gave me has been so helpful. I shot a lot higher than what I'd ever imagined before, and that helped me a lot. So
Well, that's great. So think big, think high.
yeah.
Um, so can you tell us more about the work that you do now? Tell us about life as an investment banker.
So life as an investment banker, as a senior investment banker, senior sometimes involves maybe a fewer hairs or hairs than most. Most of my time is spent halfway through business development. In other words, developing relationships and bringing on new clients, and at the same time managing the current deals that I have and negotiating, putting those deals together, structuring them, finding the right relationships, finding the people who might be interested in a particular transaction I'm looking at, and then negotiating those deals, analyzing those deals. So that's where I spend most of my time.
I see. So, how did you get the position that you have now at WG Nielsen?
You know, as I mentioned, my career has been like this, kind of always, fortunately, in an upward direction. But different opportunities have come to me. I had the privilege of selling one of my businesses, the business that I mentioned in my bio, the office source. After that, I had an opportunity to say, "Okay, so what do I want to do next?" And for those with a spiritual ear here, I could say it was really through prayer that brought me here. As I was praying, two names came to mind, and I called those people, and those people, within 1 week, both said, "You know, you need to talk to WG Nielsen." And, and I followed,
Wayne's a great guy.
yeah, and I followed that advice. And a couple months later, I'm sitting there at WG Nielsen as an investment banker.
There you go.
And there was some thought and some prayer there. So
So Richard, has your career been this straight up trajectory, or have there been times in your career where you've struggled and had to overcome obstacles?
I would love to say it's been one straight thing, but as I mentioned, it hasn't. I've had some significant obstacles. When I was at Corporate Express, for example, I was in charge of acquisitions, and my last acquisition at Corporate Express was negotiating myself out of a job, negotiating the acquisition of my company by a larger company, knowing that was going to end my current job. And after that, I had to kind of reset and figure out, so what am I going to do after that? Another one of the companies that I had that I put together ended up in the Great Recession. Ended up after that in bankruptcy, which was a very difficult experience. And so there are obstacles along the way, and speed bumps, and sometimes mountains. But fortunately, there's opportunities to pick yourself up again and build on what you've done in the past. So,
Well, that makes life interesting, right?
yeah.
So what's the typical education path for an investment banker? I think you came into it a little bit differently than a lot of others.
I did, even though I would recommend my education career path because my legal degree and legal experience has been very helpful. But very few people take that path. The traditional path, Scott, is to get an undergrad either in a finance undergrad or some other degree. If you get a finance degree, then doing some internships and getting some jobs in the finance industry while you're in school, and then applying for investment banking type positions. If you're not doing an undergrad in finance related, typically going out and getting some work experience and then going and getting an MBA. An MBA is oftentimes a path people use to get into the investment banking world.
I see. So you mentioned internship. So how important is getting an internship when entering into investment banking, and how should one apply for it, and when should they apply for an internship?
I think, Scott, internships are the key to getting an investment banking role. And it doesn't have to be an internship at a Bulls bracket firm in New York or something like that. It really can be something small, which oftentimes leads to a larger internship. I have a son who works on Wall Street in New York right now, and his first internship was working for a local company here for a friend of our family, who turned him on to some different things, which gave him another internship and another internship, and now he has his job. But internships are critical. Just try to find something. Uh,
Mhm.
Now, there are at many universities, and particularly if you're a student at Brigham Young University or one that in the United States, for example, almost every one of the finance programs will have internship periods. And typically those are in the fall, typically starting late September through October is when the people come to campus and will start interviewing. You have to, when you first hit campus in the fall, you've got to go into the career office and just find out when those career fairs are and when they're there, because people are there interviewing, and those
Mm.
are some of the best opportunities. If one of those doesn't pan out, don't give up. Go find something that you can say, yeah, I worked this summer and I was doing some spreadsheet analysis, and this is my experience. Because that may be 3 internships away from your final
Mhm.
first job.
So those internships, when should one apply for them? When they're a senior or a sophomore or junior?
Start your first year. And again, you may not get the internship on Wall Street, but you may get something working for a neighbor uh,
Mhm.
that you can put on your resume. And so you want to start just your first year. And then the more years you can string together with some internships, the better it looks. And each one will build on and should build on each other.
Those internships on Wall Street, what year are those typically? When do you typically get those?
Typically, you're interviewing in your sophomore year when you're starting to get in the finance program, maybe even your junior year. But typically, those are you interview the fall for maybe the next summer, or it could be even the summer after that. And so you have to kind of start thinking ahead of that. But sophomore year, you might get an internship during the summer after your junior year, for example.
Okay. So Richard, you have a lot of formal education, and formal education is necessary for a career in investment banking. But are there any other certificates or advanced learning that would be helpful to someone in investment banking? For instance, is a chartered financial analyst, would that be helpful designation to get?
I think any designations like that would be helpful. The CFA designation is recognized universally, internationally also. And so that's a great one to do. In your first years as an investment banker, you're going to spend a lot of time analyzing financial information, doing analysis, modeling, etc. So anything that you can do to develop your skills and get certificates, even unrecognized certificates, but certificates that you can put on your resume, but not just your resume, but really improve your modeling and your financial analysis would be helpful. CFA is, as you mentioned, is a fantastic one, but
Mhm.
even private courses that you can take online to improve your modeling would be helpful. And you can put those on your resume.
Mm-hmm. Richard, what do you consider to be the most important rewards and challenges of being an investment banker?
Scott, people oftentimes ask me that. And what I love about an investment banker is you're building something. You're either helping someone who has been building a business for a period of time, oftentimes their whole life, and you are helping them to monetize their business and achieve some of their goals. And I oftentimes say one of the biggest joys I get is sitting there at the lunch after the closing has happened and looking at the owners of the business look at their cell phone and see that the deposit of the sale proceeds has just hit their bank account. And know they're going to be able to now accomplish some of the things that they've worked so hard to do, which might be something in retirement or might be building another business. And so I love building things. And we as investment bankers, we're helping people either acquire something or sell something or raise capital to help grow their business. And so you're helping people accomplish their dreams. And that gives me great satisfaction.
I love that. I love that. That's so important. So, what do you consider to be some of the most important characteristics of successful leaders in
Uh,
your profession?
yeah. Aside from having a good financial foundation, meaning you understand financial statements, you understand modeling, etc. After you've developed those skills, I think two things. One is developing trust. When people are engaging you as an investment banker, they're putting almost their whole financial basket in your hands and developing trust and developing a trustful type relationship. And then second, developing relationships. But when you get to be my stage in the career, much of what you do is business development, and that's a lot of developing relationships with people.
So, Richard, could you tell me a little bit more about what trends are impacting uh, in the investment banking industry now?
Sure. Let me answer that in something that I think would be pertinent to some of the younger folks listening to this is the investment banking world is notorious for long hours and chewing up and grinding out young analysts and associates, and that has been true. Starting with some negative experiences on Wall Street, some of the larger firms are starting to limit the number of hours that young investment bankers are working. Before, the standard was 120 hours a week, and now they've reduced it to 80 hours a week. Now you may go,
Mhm.
still a lot, but that's a huge reduction. And I think there's a recognition that there are some work lifestyle issues that need to be addressed in this industry. And I appreciate the larger firms, either by necessity or by their own ideals, are changing a little bit the model. That doesn't mean you're not going to work long hours, but not deathly hours. And also starting to recognize that people really want to have a lifestyle. So that's one of the bigger trends, I think, for younger folks.
Yeah, it's definitely been in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
So, um, Richard, what advice would you give someone that's interested in jumpstarting a career in investment banking? So let's say that they've done that academic work, they've got their degrees. Now they want to get out in the business world and start with a company. What advice would you give them for getting started?
Couple things. We talked about relationships. Relationships are very important, and meeting as many people in the industry as possible. And you may be 5 degrees away from your next job, but just getting out and talking to people. I had a return missionary from my ward here, good friend of my son's, who called me up and said, "Hey, I'm interested in investment banking." And what can you tell me? And so I spent a half hour with him on the phone, and I just noticed here, actually during this call, believe it or not, he is just trying to call me, and I'm sure he's following up with that. But relationships is talk to as many people as you possibly can, and then I would just add, develop as much financial analysis and modeling skills as you possibly can, because that'll be the first question people ask you is those skills. And so continue to work on those.
So not only have you been busy in your career, but you also have a large family. You have 6 children, you have 4 grandchildren. In addition, you've been a state president, you've been a mission president. Uh, what advice would you offer young adults that they want to be successful in their business, but they also want to have balance in their life and really a desire to serve in the church? And I know you recently took time off from your full-time employment to serve as a mission president for 3 years. So what advice could you offer those?
Well, first thing is, I think investment banking allows for those opportunities. We talked about particularly in the younger years, the long hours, and those, like I said, those you just need to put in that time. But for those people who are looking for balance, oftentimes we try to find a perfect one-third balance, between those three: our work, our family, our church obligations. To be honest with you, I've never found that perfect one-third balance. I'm always striving for it, but I've never found it. Sometimes church will dominate, sometimes family will dominate, sometimes work will dominate, but always working to do that. The great thing about having a professional career, such as investment banking, is the ability that people, one, recognize what you're doing and actually admire what you're doing in your family and in your callings, but also allow you that extra time to even deal with that from work sometimes, for example. But that would be the first thing is, first, don't avoid a career because you think it's going to interfere with that, because I believe any career that is particularly challenging and engaging is going to have these times where it just sucks you in, and you need to pay attention to
Mhm.
what's going on. And so you'll always have those times where you're trying to balance that, but don't avoid a career like this because of fear that it might not give you that. I tell you that it's possible, that you're always working at it though.
I like that. It's similar in my industry. There's times when you're really, really, really busy, and other times when you could devote to other things. So as a mission president, you worked with these missionaries regarding the My Plan, the church's My Plan. So can you tell me how that program, My Plan, would factor into the advice that you would offer to the missionaries?
I love my plan. I think it's one of the most inspired things. And a couple pieces of thoughts to your question, Scott, is one is, go find your my plan, go find your plan and dust it off. Because most of you, it's sitting in a box someplace. And so go find it and dust it off, because you wrote that when you has some wonderful visions about your future. And there may have been some things that some life may have hit you with some things, reality may have hit you with some things, and your vision may have taken a couple notches down. Go take it and go look at it again and raise your vision. That's one of the things I love about my plan. It's done in a time when you're unimpeded by reality, and so you can aim high. And so I love my plan for all aspects of your life, and then go back and raise your vision again. Um, uh, and then, even if I love it when my missionaries give me a call and say, "Present, um, I don't know if you remember my plan, but I wanted to do this. What do you think about this?" Just yesterday, I spent half hour on the phone with one of my missionaries who was looking for some career advice. We love to do that. So give us a call. We'd be happy to. One, we just love to hear from you, but two, we'll be able to help guide you. You know that my plan is should be a living document.
Oh, I love it. And certainly my plan when in our program with the young professionals career engagement program, we can help them to implement my plan by assigning them a career coach and also introducing them to mentors
Mhm.
in industries that they're interested in.
Scott, I think that is one of the most valuable piece of the Young Professionals Career Engagement Program is mentors. And I've already mentioned a couple times Doug Morrison and some other people in my life who have been great mentors to me. And I credit much of the success I've had to either 5-minute conversations or lifetime conversations with those people. And
Mhm.
those people can help you see blind spots. They can raise your vision. They can steer you in a different direction. They can help you avoid a pitfall. So I love what you're doing there. I just think everybody should be involved like this.
Thank you. So, um, being successful as an investment banker, tell us about networking. How important is networking, and especially to young people, and how do you suggest doing this?
Networking is critical and essential. The more senior you get, the more expectations you have that you actually eat what you kill, meaning that you'll bring your clients to the table. Scott, you may not remember this, but you and I met at a networking event.
That's right.
Scott was sitting at the same table at an ACG event, and I heard the word BYU. That was I went over and said, I need to go talk to that guy. So going to events like association type events, Association for Corporate Growth. If you're on campus, you got the different entrepreneur societies, clubs, things like that. Going is to as many of those things that you can. The great thing is many of those types of organizations have subsections for pre-professionals or young professionals. And so they'll have a night for people who are young in their careers or still thinking about that. And so they're designed for networking. So
Hmm. Yeah, networking is absolutely critical. So, so in wrapping up the interview, Richard, is there any other career or life advice that you'd like to offer to young adults?
a couple of things. One is, as I mentioned before, aim high. Second, don't think that you're going to draw this straight line from where you are today to where you're going to end up once you're 65 years old. Rarely do I know people whose careers go in a straight line like that. Most of them, particularly in the finance world, most of them tend to go like this. An opportunity presents itself, and maybe one of your clients offers you an opportunity. But you see these different things. So don't think that you have to plan today to your end result that's going to be 40 years from now. Life's going to throw some curveballs and opportunities for you. Probably the most important career advice I would give people is early on, the mistake I see people making is they jump off their career path a little too soon to take an opportunity, and that career path that they jump off to doesn't have a career ladder that's going to take them where they want to be. They may be avoiding some long hours. They may be avoiding an uncomfortable situation or just the attractiveness of something. But oftentimes I see them jump off. Let's say someone who's working for a public accounting firm, they may jump off at 3 years, where if they stayed there at 5 or 6 years, that gives them a career opportunity much higher, much taller than what they would do. Same thing with investment banking.
Hmm. And what about life advice?
Mhm. Life advice is you probably heard this: find something you love to do and you'll never work a day of your life. I love what I do. But as you can tell from my discussion, I've gone different paths to get here. And so I love what I do. I go in the office every day, just enjoy. So just find that this is where you spend most of your time. And so find something you really like.
I love that advice. Richard, I want to thank you for the time that you've spent with us today, offering career building advice to young adults that are interested in a career in investment banking. So to wrap up the video, I'd like to remind our viewers that they can either reach out on their own to seasoned professionals like Mr. Millett to schedule informational interviews or ask for an introduction to a professional from someone that they know. And to prepare for those informational interviews, we recommend that you watch the video on our website titled Conducting Informational Interviews. Richard, thank you very much. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and look forward to meeting with you again.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you.